sanctions on Russia threaten or support of Ukraine? How long Russian economy could be sustainable? Let's discuss these topics with our experts. With us today is economic expert from London, Andriy Nesteruk. Andriy, I'm happy to have you here.
Hello, Daria.
And with us in studio is the co-founder of Ukrainian Institute of Future, Anatoly Amelin. Anatoly, happy to have you here too.
Hello.
How would you estimate the situation now in Russian economy? Because we could see that not a lot of experts try to talk about it, and we know that Russia went through the partial mobilizations. They told they finished, but it's sometimes experts just critiques it and tell that it's not true, it's going on. So what figures we could tell for now about Russian economy?
The most important figure about Russian economy, it's proficit of trade balance. It's about $20 billion per month, and it's a huge amount, which enough to continuous aggression against Ukraine. Unfortunately, we see that import in Russia drop down, but export give Russia Federation a lot of money for budget, for cover deficit of budget, and finance Russian army.
Yeah, but what do you think, what will be the peak point for Russian economy when the deficit could slow down? So what should happen in this situation?
From my expectation, Russian Federation has 1.5 years period for continuous this aggression against Ukraine. They has huge amount on own fund for national economic
fund.
It's national fund.
National economic fund. Yeah.
Yeah, and today they use money from this fund to cover deficit of budget Russian Federation.
Yeah.
And if we're talking about influence of mobilization, from my experience, from my expectation of Ukraine for the future, today it's not big influence on Russian economy, because 300,000-400,000 people for Russian Federation is not big amount of people who involved in Russian economy, because this country with 160 million people. And amount 300,000-400,000 people is not big amount. But we should remember that 70% of Russian Federation subjects has deficit budget and receive money from federal budget.
Andriy, what do you think? Are you agree with Anatoly about partial mobilization, that Russia has enough money to pay people to make war in Ukraine? Because we hear that, for example, this mobilization was like an effect of the scrutiny in Russian economy.
I think it's a bit more complicated than this. If you think, if you're asking whether they will be able to pay their military expenditures, yeah, they will be able to pay their military expenditures, but it's not the only thing they care about. They need to keep at least some level of comfort for the people. And that's where the general economic output is important. And at the moment, they their significant exports, good export prices for oil and gas, help them to keep the economy afloat. But now they're facing two problems. Their economy is going down. Their export revenues are going down. And they have to choose where to spend their reserves and their national welfare fund. And they will not be able, in my opinion, they will not be able to sustain everything, like to help all all these aspects with the reserves and that they have at the moment. So they will have to choose either to spend on military expenditures or to support companies like AvtoVAZ so that they don't fire people. And I think they are already facing this problem, and this problem will get only worse once the oil embargo starts in December, and then there will be a petrol embargo that starts in February.
Yeah, but according to the last attacks, air attacks of different parts of Ukraine, we could see that Russia have money to pay for this war and to spend a lot to destroy Ukraine, to destabilize the energy situation in our country. Yes, so when they will choose between paying for their for everything in different fields of economy, or paying for war in Ukraine?
I think the question will be really hard for them, like in 6 months, because if you look at the numbers, they already have a real budget deficit of around $5 billion per month. It will grow to 10 or even more than this after the oil embargo, and then there will be petrol embargo. So it can be as high as $15 billion per month, and that will be only budget deficit. So they will have to cover this, and given that the liquid assets of their welfare fund will cover this only for 5 months or even less than this, in 6 months they will face a tough decision. They will run out of their national welfare fund. They will spend a lot of available reserves that they have, and the problem is, like, they don't have liquid central bank reserves. You know that their central bank reserves in currencies like euro are frozen. They only have gold, yuan, and these semi-liquid reserves, and even gold is now limited. So selling yuan actually is yuan reserves in like $15 billion per month amount is not that easy, and it's really a hard political move. Like I think in 6 months they will really face very tough decisions, and even before this, they will the people in Russia will already suffer bigger decline in their level of comfort. Let's say, I mean, by comfort I mean how much disposable income do they have, like how much goods and services they can buy with what they earn.
And we should remember the sanctions on oil export that will be shown off on December and will also influence the Russian economy. We will talk about it a little bit later. Anatoly, we know that Russia have its anti-sanctional program in Russia. If we move to the sanctions on Russia, yes, and I know that a lot of experts tell that this program helped to cover the real economic situation in Ukraine, so we couldn't see these national reports, what is going on in Russian economy, and so on, so on. So how does work this program?
Okay.
Yeah.
I went back to previous questions one step. I really believe in scenarios which told my colleague, but I'm sure that that Russian Federation has more bigger sources, internal sources to survive in this period for them. And I not believe that Russia Federation, their government, thinking about people, Russian people.
Never thinking.
Yeah. And if talking about Russian economy and our strategy here, unfortunately, our main strategy today is survive, and I really doesn't see any activities in Ukrainian politics to create anti-crisis economic strategy for our country. Unfortunately, we just believe that our foreign partners give us a lot of money to support our budget and our economy. But I think we should have own personal strategy, anti-crisis strategy for the Ukrainian future, for the Ukrainian economy, and we should do some steps in this way. But if we're talking about Russian frozen assets, which can be used to renovate Ukraine infrastructure,
the money should be sent to Ukraine, but they block it.
It should, but if we're talking about procedures for these activities, I think the best period, the shorter period that we can use for these activities, it's at least 2 years, because frozen assets should be sent to Ukraine. But today, I don't know a country which has law which gives this opportunity. And European Union, US government should create new law, approve this law, and use this law for send Ukraine frozen money. And it's long period with democracy procedures and etc. And I think first money which we can receive for renovate Ukraine economy, it's funds from European Union and US, maybe Plan Marshall version 2.
Yeah, but you tell me, Anatoly, that Russian economy is more sustainable than we think right here. But this fact that Russia unlocked $16 billion from the Russian State Welfare Fund to plug the government deficit, what do you think? Doesn't it a problem for Russia to take this money?
It's not a big problem for them, because even 3 years ago, they start procedures to prepare into isolation, external isolation, and
so they have this prepared massive,
and they're ready. They're ready for this sanction. And unfortunately, oil embargo, it's a big hit to Russian economy, but they use in other ways. They sold their oil to China, to India, and other countries, and they create another ways to earn money.
We will talk about it in a few minutes. But okay, we understood the situation with welfare fund. But what about the loss up to 10% of banks' capital and up to 40% of market capitalization? It is nothing for Russian economic situation.
Who lost this money? The investors lost this money, not Russian Federation. And if you're talking about capitalization, it's some indicator which not important for Russian government today for this time.
So, but it helps to grow the Russian economy and to make it sustainable.
We just talk about ordinary situation in the world, but Russian Federation they moved to North Korea way. Unfortunately, and they think they has another type of thinking about own future. Today, Russian Federation is not European country.
So they think that it's good that they lost this, I don't know, Western investments even, so because
but today they think like wild Orda. If you remember, it's not about modern civilization. They want destroy modern civilization and create own personal view for civilization with wild process.
And here I would like to remark that China, they told that they sustain Russia. It was like a few days ago. So what do you think about the Russian position in this war with
we should understand the difference between words and activities. And I can comment this issue when I see some activities from China. Because today, if we read Chinese program for the future, they're talking about to
bipolar.
World. And this world, they can see, doesn't see Russia Federation. And for me, it's more important that this works.
Yeah, I agree, because Western partners tell about, for example, war in Ukraine, also a lot of things, but the help by them isn't enough, yeah? Andrei, what could you tell about the situation right there in Russian economy? So if we are talking about this anti-sanctional program in Russia, how would you estimate it? And maybe you have some comments on Anatoly Ward's another position on the situation in Russia.
Yeah, I'll start with anti-sanction program. I think so. One of the parts of the anti-sanction program is to hide some information. They made some statistics secret. They are not showing it. It's one of, like, they're saying that it helps to prevent targeted sanctions, and I think it's the most effective part of the anti-sanctions program so far. They changed their head of statistical committee in March, actually, when the invasion just started. And I think it's one of the reasons why do we see these very moderate figures of decline in the Russian economy. And because there are discrepancies in the statistics, and I'm pretty sure that they are underestimating the decline. But other parts of the anti-sanction program are, like, they are injecting capital in large enterprises. They're helping them to stay afloat. And in turn, they require them not to fire their workers. That's how they keep unemployment steady. And I think, of course, their mobilization helps to keep unemployment steady as well. But that's another part of the story. But the thing is, it's only possible to do this in the short term. Like, you cannot, if the company is not producing anything, you cannot tell them to keep their stuff forever. And you cannot continue injecting money forever. At the moment, Russia has the luxury of high prices for oil and gas. So it really helps to keep the economy afloat. But I want to point out that government finances are not equal to the economy. Russia is doing, like, it was doing great in government finances in the first half of the year because of the high hydrocarbon prices. But economy was declining. It was keeping economy from quicker decline with government finances. But now that they will have to choose where to spend their money, because the stream of money from oil and gas is getting smaller, I think the decline in the economy will accelerate. So, to the question of whether their anti-sanctions program effective, the only effective parts are hiding information and spending government money to keep economy from going down quicker. But all these import substitution programs, they're not effective at all. And basically, given that Russia is mobilizing people, actually Russia is keeping unemployment low. They cannot change the structure of the economy. You cannot start producing something new if you don't have available labor force. You need workers. Like, if you want to produce mozzarella cheese, you need to hire someone to produce this mozzarella cheese. And what Russia is doing, actually, they are keeping unemployment artificially low and preventing. Actually, they are not giving economy a chance to restructure it. And given that they're actually rolling down on market economy, they're trying to significantly go back to Soviet-style command economy. Changing the structure, like command economies find it very difficult to change the structure of the economy, to start when some sectors are slowly dying, some sectors are emerging.
Yeah.
That's why Soviet Union basically collapsed.
Yes.
One of the reasons.
Andrei, but do you have fresh figures about the situation with labor shortage in Russia? Because it was told about different figures, Russia lost to 1 million of citizens or so on. So what could you tell for now about that?
Their official figures of unemployment are steady, so it didn't change, which basically means that officially they tried not to fire anyone. So it means that there is labor shortage because basically you definitely need to start producing something new, and you don't have unemployment. You don't have official unemployment. So it means that people are probably coming to their job in AvtoVAZ. They are sitting, not doing anything because the car production is down more than 50%.
So maybe they don't need a lot of stuff right now. Maybe this loss of stuff isn't a problem for Russia, no?
But I mean, it's not like they're not losing stuff. The companies that are not producing anything that are supposed to die or just to scale down.
Yep.
They're not firing people. So people are coming to their work and they're just sitting there. How the economy should work. Like if there is a slowdown, some sectors are dying, people are being fired, and these people can be hired by new entrepreneurs that are starting something new. But in Russia, new entrepreneurs are non-existent because first, they don't have access to labor, and second, because Russia is just not encouraging any market economy right now.
Anatoly, what is your point of view on current situation of labor shortage in Russia?
Each week, Ukraine Institute for the Future present own report about Russian economy, and from our reports, I can see any deep problem in the labor force sector in Russian Federation. I think next 2-3 months we can receive more interesting information about this issue. But what I see today, I see new record about amount personal bankruptcy in Russia. I agree with my colleagues that Russia statistic is close for publicity, but I receive information about personal bankruptcy at another point of view to this issue. People receive some credits and can pay for them. And I see situation in Russian economy give people new risks for their personal life.
Great. So we are happy for them. I could tell. Yes. So,
it's not enough for us.
Yes, it's not enough, and maybe that there should be more even sanctions. And now I would like to talk a little bit about the sanctions. So we know that European Union sanctions blocked 90 billion euro of Russian exports to Europe. And it cost steel production to fall by 30% and sawn wood production by 90%. And now in December, there should work the loss of European export of oil and gas and also refined products. So, Anatoly, how would it influence the situation with the budget in Russia and all the processes in the economy?
From the last public information from Russian Federation, they told that losses of Russian economy will be not so big than we expect, unfortunately. But situation really not transparent. We can see just information from public sources of Russian Federation, but we see the next year Russia cut some spends, not critical.
Not critical spends of the budget, Yeah, but I hear that they could lose like around $7 billion each month from this export. So they couldn't export the gas and refined products to Europe, or maybe they could find another way to do this export.
They found new ways. I repeat my thesis that today Russia Federation receive each month more than $20 billion positive profit of trade balance. They receive more money they spend, and for them $7 billion it's
not too much.
It's too much, but not enough for create critical situation to Russian budget, from my point of view. And it's the reason why we should make sanction more stronger, and we need to use secondary sanction against countries which help Russia Federation take another way for spend their products and oil, etc.
Andriy, what is your point of view? So the loss of $7 billion a month for Russia, will it be the problem, or they will find another way out? Because I hear that they could make this export another way, or use smaller vessels to export gas and refined products, for example.
Yeah, I want to start with explaining the logistics of gas and oil exports in Russia. Russia, like the gas logistics is pretty easy. They have pipelines, and they have some limited amounts of liquefying gas facilities. And if they cannot export their natural gas by pipeline, they basically just cannot export it at all. So it's quite easy there. Like, and they don't have any short-term fixing to this. Their Arctic SPG 2 project was supposed to launch in 2024 to 2026. And now it will be delayed because they were using a lot of Western subcontractors for the project, and it was only like a small fraction of what Russia currently exports to European natural gas. So basically, they cannot fix anything about gas. If they are not selling their natural gas to Europe, they are just not producing it. With oil, it's different. They have a few large places where to export from. One is Kazmino in Pacific Ocean, and they can export up to 80 million tons of oil per year from there. And it's 100% utilized. So basically they're just, once the invasion started, they increased the utilization of the capacities to 100%, and they cannot export anything more. So when we are talking that they would export more to China, that's the port that it used to export it to China, and it's busy. Like, they cannot do anything about this. Like, Kazmino cannot just export any more oil. They have ports in Black Sea and in Baltic Sea. But the thing is, first, they were always used to export oil to Europe. So some of these ports, like Ust-Luga, they're not created for, I mean, they cannot load oil onto large tankers. They were meant for small tankers that would just travel, few 1,000 kilometers to Europe. So for large tankers, they would have to load this oil on small tankers first, and then sail somewhere to the Baltic Sea, and then reload it. But first, it all requires a lot of new tankers, because if you were exporting oil to, sorry,
how could they find them?
There was a Bloomberg article saying that there is a shadow fleet of tankers of 240. But the thing is, like, I really doubt that, first, it exists, and second, there are few more competitors on this market, like of this shadow, let's say, sanctioned oil. So it's Venezuela and Iran. They would need it as well. And even if these 240 tankers were only meant for Russian oil, it would not allow them to export all the oil that they were exporting to Europe it would not allow them to export, for example, to China, because it would take a lot of time for this tanker to go from Black Sea or to Baltic Sea to China, and they probably could export like 60 or 70% of their of what they're losing in Europe to India, because India the route to India is shorter. But then again, I'm not sure that they will be able to use these 240 tankers just for themselves. And second, you have a problem of insurance, because in Baltic Sea, for example, you have to tankers have to pass through Danish waters, and you know that Denmark would require this cargo to be insured, and like Russians will have problems with insurance, especially. I mean, we don't know how this price cap will be introduced at the end, because they are changing all the time. But this can really hurt the perspective of insuring it. So they will have a lot of problems. I'm not saying that they will not be able to sell any of this oil anywhere, but it will be much more possible.
We will see how it's going on. Yeah, but you mentioned Iran and
Venezuela.
What?
Venezuela.
Yes. You mentioned the cooperation with Iran, and we know that Iranian export to Russia have grown by 70% this year. So, and there is an increase of the trade with China by 20%. So, Anatoly, how these two companies now add Russia to be more sustainable in such conflict with Ukraine?
You're talking about Iran and China?
Yeah.
I'm not sure that they really help Russia to be more sustainable. Russia use uranium to Iran at first reason. It's some types of weapons which need Russia to continuous aggression against Ukraine.
Yeah.
China more accurate working with Russia, because about 40%. Because about 40% of China export is US. And USA, it's very important market for China, and they thinking about future, about own opportunities or some risk which they can receive from US in this aspect. And I don't see that they receive a lot of advantages with Russian market today. But I think next step for the China can be secondary sanction. Unfortunately, this year we will have election in USA, and we can change some political balance in Congress. Next year we will have new election, president election in US, which also can change situation between US, Russia, and China. But China is very strategic country, which thinking about not about tomorrow, not about after tomorrow. They're thinking about 10, 20 years for the future. And I think they will be use Russia Federation and their territory and their natural resources like own future resources.
Yes, I also heard about it. That's a good thing to talk more about it, but we have some more, just two questions about the cooperation with Iran. One more question. So we know that the joint Russian-Iranian payment system may be launched at the end of this year. Anatoly, how it's could be going on and
payments?
Yes, so new payment system for with Iran, Russian-Iranian payment system. So will it help Russian economy or?
No, it's not big part of Russian trade. If talking about amount which they receive from Iran or sent to Iran, I heard that they start using own payment system MIR in Iran.
Yes.
But it's also not big amount of payment. They, as I know, using cryptocurrency, and they
And they okay.
No, this type of payment today may be bigger than another type.
Even so, yeah. Andrei, what is your view on such the perspective of new payment system between Russia and Iran? Will it influence the trade or so on, or the currency of big Bitcoin or so on will help more?
Yeah, just to save time, I want to say that I agree with Anatoly's perspective on Russian trade with China, except for I would also add that the current increase in turnover with China is basically attributed to higher prices. That's the whole story. Like China is not really selling or buying more from Russia; it's just prices are higher. And with Iran, Russian turnover with Iran is tiny. It's even this increased turnover is $3 billion. And Russian overall trade turnover is 750. So it's tiny. It's negligible. And that's one of the reasons. The payment system has no perspectives because first. Iranian financial system is pretty much non-existent. It's small. It's not existent in a global scale. And there is no synergy between Russian and Iranian payment systems. So if you are talking about retail systems, so just like individuals going from Russia to Iran and paying with their credit cards, then there aren't many people doing this. And if we're talking about systems at larger scale, then they have no means of effectively interacting with each other because both currencies are now quite illiquid, and just foreign currency exchange between ruble and Iranian currency is really, it's illiquid. It's really hard to exchange it. There aren't many companies selling this currency, and there aren't many companies buying this currency. So it's really it's more a political move than anything else. So I don't see any synergies. I don't see any effect of this mere system in Iran. Basically, any synergy between Russian financial system and Iranian financial system is non-existent. And even the trade that we're talking about, it's tiny compared to Russian foreign trade turnover.
Mm-hmm. Okay, and last but not the least, Anatoly, how could Russia use the experience of the sanctions to Iran in their futures?
There's just use experience of Iran to solve problem with sanctions, because Iran last 30 years has sanctions, and you can buy internal in Iran anything which you need, also if there's goods under sanctions.
Mm-hmm. Are there any methods, any options to stop this?
Secondary sanctions. It's instrument which help us and US and European Union stop political Russia Federation, and we can decrease amount of money than the Russia Federation receive each month, and also secondary sanctions help us and West world to limit access Russia Federation to modern technologies. Secondary sanction, it's main instrument which we and US and European Union which can use to stop Russia Federation.
How strong is position of Western partners on secondary sanctions?
They just start talking this instrument.
And when could be the effect of these talks?
I don't know.
Taking into account the elections in
I hope next 2-3 months we can receive some decisions about secondary sanctions, because it's correct way, but I'm not sure, because it's politics and big money.
Okay. And for the end, Andrei, what is your position on this situation with sanctions? Very shortly, please. I
think sanctions will not stop the war, but they will make it much harder to to conduct it for Putin. So I think it's in addition to secondary sanctions, what's important is plugging holes in existing sanctions, because some countries were intentionally trying to create these holes and some were not just noticed when the sanctions were introduced. So plugging holes in existing sanctions and new secondary sanctions will really help to make it harder for Putin to continue this war in the way he's doing it.
So, and I believe that our partners will make the life harder for Russia and its economy, and let's believe in that, and let's make everything for make it happen. Thank you, Andrei, to be with us. Thank you to join this program, and I will be happy to have you here one more time. Bye. Good luck in London.
Thank you. Bye.
Have a good weather there.
Bye,
Yeah, Anatoly, thank you also that you joined our program, and it was really interesting talk, and I appreciate that you have different views, and I love it. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Bye.
Thank you.
Thank you to be with us. See you very soon. Bye.